Welcome to it, sports fans. A different ball game on CliffCentral Sport. Good evening, as the Spanish said. Well, that's actually just the former Arsenal manager who says that. And of course, if you don't know, the V is a B sound in Spanish. So it's good evening. Good evening if you're Spanish. If you're not, and you're anglicized like me and many others, good evening. Hello. I am MKT. It is Monday. Welcome to it. My favorite thing is talking about sports, and I get to do it tonight, and I'm not alone. I am with Woude Muller. She's all the way in Cape Town. Woude, what's happening?
Actually, I think the Spanish is buenos noches, if I'm not mistaken. So,
yeah, I think it is. Good night. Buenas noches. Good night. It is. It is very good.
So, seeing as my mom and I did a trip in Spain last year, I should know that. Mm-hmm. But anyway, happy Women's Day to all the incredible women out there. So, just a shout out to them for Women's Day yesterday. Hope you all were spoiled. My boys on the show didn't even remember that it was Women's Day, so I'm not going to go down that road. But besides that, also a big shout out to Brad Binder, for winning the first, MotoGP yesterday, the first South African to ever win a MotoGP, and only in his third race ever. So hopefully we can expect some big things from him. So that was quite exciting. I listened to his post-race interview, Shave. He was so shocked and so excited, and it was really nice hearing a South African accent actually on that big stage. So yeah, some exciting things for South Africans this weekend.
And he's from Creersdorp. So he's not just South African. What I love about him is he's kept the accent. Like he sounds like an O from Creersdorp, who on Sundays he goes and checks out the fast cars. I love it. Good for him.
So that was definitely incredible. And then I'm very happy that Max Verstappen beat Hamilton in the Formula One yesterday. Finally, Mercedes didn't win one. Anyway, besides that, I had a great weekend. Yeah. My sister left for Amsterdam. We had a big family get-together, which went down without any drama. So that's great. I don't think a lot of families can say that. But that was amazing.
She's in Holland now. Huh? Hey, listen, I got to pretend to be interested in the motorcycle stuff for Brad Binder. But I'm not going to pretend to be interested in the Formula One. I mean, both are a small fest. Binder, good for you. I don't even know what happened. Verstappen, I kind of saw the result. But so Verstappen won, huh?
Verstappen won. Mercedes had some problems with their tires. The tires seem to not be able to cope with the heat that they currently have. And next week it is in Spain, so that's going to be even worse for the Mercedes tires. So they're going to have to figure out a different strategy. Verstappen just had a better strategy in his qualifying, so I think he only went 2 qualifyings, and he tried to qualify with that. So his tires were better going into the race, and he didn't have to do more stops. So it worked right. He actually also did say that the Mercedes drivers in front of him are driving like grandmas. So that was quite interesting and exciting. Funny for him to say that. He basically just said to his box, the box said to him, like, no, slow down a little bit. You can catch up to the Mercedes a bit later. Your engine is overheating. He's like, no, this is my moment to take over. They're driving like grandmas. So that was the best part of the race.
Wow, that was okay. Formula One, huh? Let's start off on a good cheek. Good for Formula One. It is exciting. And for those who didn't know, Formula One's still a real sport, by the way. Still on TV, believe it or not.
It's good. All right, come on. And then besides that, there was obviously good rugby on this weekend. So
cool. Yeah, that's something we can talk about. Woude says the rugby was good this weekend. So we'll get to hear, of course, in the skip pass. And then we will talk about a little bit more golf to start off with. So Woude, see you in a bit. The skip pass, folks, coming up. Woude will wrap up events from the weekend and exactly what happened there. So let's get into what I'll start with. It's the golf. Colin Morikawa. Good for you, my son. Good for you. PGA Championship this weekend, of course. Golf is back. Sport is all the way back. College football, bumpy road. Cross that bridge, though. But this weekend, all about what happened at the PGA Championship, first major of the year. Let's have a look at what happened. Right? Colin is the guy now, 23, and he's gone and won in incredible style. Quite incredible style. Listen, that drive on 16 and the ice cold hands, ice cold veins, absolutely brilliant on 16. That's where he won it, right? Tiger was close. We thought, okay, playoff, and then he just, are you kidding me? Absolutely bombed it on 16, and that's how you do it. But then you know what follows, right? And especially since the guys around didn't have the greatest kind of tournament, then the talk always comes, and I get it. We need narratives in sport. Life is about narratives. It's about storytelling. In the Shakespearean sense, of course, life is a stage, right? And we're all just characters. Shakespeare said it, not me, long time ago. Smart guy. His work has lasted. So there's something to it. So we need the narrative. Is he the next Tiger? We need that for sport. We got to sell somebody. Because the next guys, they're all boring. All these new guys get along. Ricky Fowler, they all hang out. Ricky Fowler's quite cool, but the rest of them, Spieth, boring. The other cool guys, DeChambeau, he just can't get to winning yet. But the other guys, I mean, Spieth is, are you kidding me? He's more boring than Roger Federer, who's more boring than Pete Sampras somehow, which is unbelievable. Tough to sell golf at the moment. Because in every play, in every story, in every movie you have, you need an antagonist. No movie is good if it's just about the good guy. That's nothing. That's dead to me. You need an antagonist. Every Oscar, think of all the great movies you've got. You've got an antagonist, either through storyline, a conflict in the character and the storyline and the past, or a direct rival where they have, a concatenation of events leads them to what we call the crescendo. They need it. But Morikawa this weekend, what is the natural comparison? All right, he's the next Tiger. Because he started off brilliantly. You know what, let's calm down. I hate this. I thought tonight, let me just remind people of what you're dealing with when you say Tiger Woods. Quite frankly, I've had enough. But let's look at Colin's achievements up front, because I think he's already shown incredible promise, better than most that we've seen. In fact, he's the guy in terms of foundation leg. Right? From debut to this point, right? He has the second most cuts that he made on the PGA Tour. 22 in a row. That's incredible. It's the second most ever. Second most cuts in a row from, I used to be an amateur. I'm pro now. I'm on the tour. 22 cuts made in a row. I mean, if you watch any golf, that's insane now if Jordan Spieth does it. My goodness, to come fresh out of college, do that? That is special. Second most of all time. Look, what does the victory do? What it says is he's the first guy since Keegan Bradley, I think 2011, Keegan Bradley won his PGA championship on his debut. Like, pitch up for the first time. There's my scorecard. By the way, I'll take the trophy home with me. That's awesome. That is awesome. The first guy since Keegan Bradley. So the second man in history. Incredible record. We're talking about, is he generational? Colin Morikawa. By the way, from California. Good on you. And this, for me, was something that stood out, right? He's the fourth man to win the PGA Championship since it was stroke play under the age of 24. Right? The other names you may recognize. And you know when you're good in life? I don't mean like good because your mom tells you you're good and you're important and every mom tells you they love you and you're special. I mean, when you're great, when you're transcendent, you only need one name. In golf, when I say he's behind Jack, Tiger, and Rory, all three generational talents, incredible talents. The fourth man ever to win the PGA Championship while it's been stroke play, underneath the age of 24. Quite incredible. And the comparison immediately goes to, we've got the next guy. This is Tiger. Oh, it's Tiger all over again. Stop it. Listen, let me show you why. And I never want to hear it again. It's Boulder Dash. It's Boulder Dash. Leave it at home. I'm not interested. I don't want to hear anybody right now who's alive. And we won't see another Tiger Woods in our time. And people might say, but you're just biased because you like Tiger. Women lie, men lie, numbers, they don't lie. So let me run you through the numbers, why I don't care what Colin Morikawa does from here till the end of his career. He shouldn't be spoken of. It's sacrilegious to mention his name next to Tiger Woods. So you could say, oh, you're just talking about the pros. Let's just go from the beginning. So because everything in life, right, is about pedigree. It's about pedigree. That's why when you go and get a dog, they say, who's the mom, who's the dad, where's the certificate? Because pedigree matters. Where were you schooled? Were you taught how to play the game correctly? Because we know technique is everything when you got to fall back on it. And when you need to win, have you won before in the amateurs? Colin Morikawa, US amateur. By the way, the amateur is the tournament if you're an amateur worldwide. Some say in the US, but it is the tournament worldwide as an amateur that you want to win. Morikawa wins 0. Tiger Woods, 3 in a row. He's the only man to have ever won it 3 times. 94, 95, 96. Tiger Woods. Morikawa, 0. Most consecutive cuts since debut. Remember I told you 22? The second most by any man in history? Oh, Tiger, he's the other guy. 25. Most in history. By 3. 25 cuts in a row. Amateur to pro. Now, here's where he separates himself, this Tiger guy. The age of winning his first major. Morikawa's already 23. And congratulations, I'm not going to take it away. 23 is ridiculous. At 23, you still don't know who you are. He's still a child, an absolute child. Tiger Woods was 21 years old. And not just that, by the way, the fastest ascent to number 1 ever in golf. Morikawa, who's 5th now and is already 23, Tiger Woods at 21 is the fastest man to surge from, I wasn't on the tour, I'm on the tour, I'm number 1 in the globe. He did that at 21 years old. So at 21 as well, what did Tiger do? The record margin at the Masters, right? To go and win 12 shots, age 21. Listen, Morikawa's already behind the 8 ball. He's 23 now. 12 shots Tiger won by. And a great era. Price, Else, Frost, if you're South African inclined. Langer, if you're German. Montgomery, we're talking about the best of the best. Faldo. They were real. These are real guys. Tiger Woods, get out of here. 12-shot win, 21 years old. Morikawa's 23 now. He hasn't got close to that. So, and here's where Tiger now disappears into the... If he was 100 meters ahead in an 800-meter race, this is where he goes 200 meters ahead. He's got the record margin ever, by the way, by the age of 24. 15 shots. US Open. If you remember that, or if you don't, go on YouTube that round. It's worth it. There's a cool 10-minute clip. It is insane. By the way, what makes that record margin insane is that Tiger's first 9 holes in that US Open, right? He's gone 4 over. He's gone 4 over in the first 9 holes of that tournament. He still won by 15 shots at the age of 24. Morikawa, you want to do that? You got another year. He's 23 now. Career Grand Slam, right? So that means you win all of the majors. It doesn't matter whether you win them in the same year or not. No worries. Age of 25, right? Morikawa would have to win 3 more. The others, right? US Open, the Open, and then the green jacket, of course, at Augusta. He'd have to do that in the next 2 years. He's got 7 majors to do it. That's counting all of the majors. But, I mean, he's really got, 3 probably in order to rotate the whole thing before he's 25. Tiger Woods at the age of 25, Grand Slam. He went even one further. Tiger Woods won all 4 in a row at the age of 25. Morikawa wants to do that is go from now, right? Is you're going to have to win all 4 in a row going from now. Otherwise, too late, mate. You're 26 by the time it's the cycle to start again. So to anybody who's saying, Colin Morikawa, listen, we all prisoners of the moment. Good for him. But no sportsman, and I'll do a Tiger segment on its own another time, why he separated himself from everybody. Not just Morikawa, not just guys playing now. Everybody who has ever called themselves a sportsman is not close to Tiger Woods. We're caught up in the moment. We need narratives. I understand it. But don't bring Tiger's name into it. Keep that man's name out of your mouth. I don't care if you don't like what Tiger did. That's your problem. Go cry to your girlfriend and boyfriend about the morality. I'm not a moralist. Appreciate greatness when you see it. And when it comes to sport, there's never been a force like Tiger Woods from 1997 to 2005. There hasn't. I don't want to get into the other records, the consecutive cuts, 142 of those. Morikawa, I don't want to pile onto Morikawa's misery in terms of this comparison. We need heroes, but stop it. Get the hell out of here with that nonsense. Morikawa is going to be Tiger Woods. He's 2 years behind in just being number one. Keep that man's name out your mouth. Tiger Woods, the GOAT. Not even close. Morikawa, congratulations to you. But let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. He's only fifth in the world. 23. Never won the US Amateurs. Tiger's got 3. It's Tiger and the rest. It's Tiger, Leo Messi, and the rest. It's Tiger, Annika Sonnenström, and the rest. Leo Messi, Schumacher, the rest. It doesn't matter who you want second. Ronaldo, Pele, doesn't matter. It's Leo Messi. It's Tiger Woods in sports comparisons, and nobody's close. If it's 1,500 meter, he's already lapped people. He's 1 lap ahead. He could walk. He could moonwalk the last lap, and he'll die the greatest sportsman to ever live. And it's not even close. Colin Morikawa, congratulations. Tiger Woods, greatest of all time. Speaking of greatness, the great Woude Muller is with us, and she's going to tell us what happened in the rugby. And of course, there's a dynasty rolling. There's another dynasty rolling. I'm sure Woude will cover that in the skip pass coming up next.
Yeah, I mean, what can we say about the Crusaders that we haven't said before? But I think let's just start with the more boring side of this, the Australian rugby. I must be honest, I only watched the highlights of them, so I can't really say much about them. If anyone else has maybe watched more of it, Mulelo, if you've watched more of the Australian rugby. But the Rebels, they kind of ended the Brumbies winning streak, beating them 30-12. I think what the Rebels really did, it was quite wet and cold conditions. So I think they kind of just handled it better and adjusted better. And they put pressure on the Brumbies set pieces. That's obviously been the reason why the Brumbies have been doing so well. So I think kind of that's the reason why they did so well. And then the Waratahs and Reds, I think that score was actually 45-12. I might be wrong. But anyway, so the Waratahs just kind of annihilated the Reds. And that's as much as I can say about the Australian rugby. I don't know if you can say more about it. I don't know if you want to say more about it, Umbolelo, but I didn't watch.
I don't. It's a dog show. I watched. So I rewatched all of the games. This is terrible.
I only watched the highlights. I kind of didn't want to waste my time on watching that again. So sorry, guys, if anyone's interested in it. So my terrible boyfriend, the Chiefs, they stayed winless in this whole competition. I think I need to give up on them. I think it's time. They're not playing another game. They're not playing another game. I don't know what happened with the Chiefs. I don't understand what Gatlin did. I don't understand. I would actually really like someone to do some analysis about this and look into it, because it's just weird how they just couldn't click. Anyway, the Hurricanes bonus point try has now only put them 1 point behind the Blues. So next weekend's game will be very important for the Blues to win, so that the Hurricanes will not finish second on the log and the Blues will stay second. So the Hurricanes are playing the Highlanders next weekend. So the competition is really between second place. If the Blues or the Hurricanes, who's going to take that second place? And then the Crusaders obviously lifted the cup after they win over the Highlanders this weekend. And was actually quite a game. So the Crusaders were behind till 20 minutes to play. And then they scored 2 very quick tries, 2 tries in 2 minutes, and there they go. But how many times did they score in the last quarter of a match? And how often did they just go into that another gear in that last? Sure, there was almost an accident outside of my apartment just now. Don't know if you guys heard that, but that was quite scary. Anyway, so the Crusaders, definitely the team to beat. They just show us again why they're the team to beat. And it's not really surprising. I mean, before COVID stopped our lives and kind of put everything on hold, the Crusaders were only 1 point behind the Sharks with a game in hand. So I called it. I said they probably would have won that, and then it would have been their 4th Super Rugby in a row. So now they've won kind of their 4th. So for me, and I think for most of us, and Ombolelo and I have spoken about this so many times, the Crusaders is the global dream team. Everyone, I think, wants to play this kind of rugby. Everyone wants to be that team that is so unbeatable. And they're just playing like a more, can I use the word revolutionary style rugby, and a very crowd pleasing kind of rugby. And that's the level that they're at. I think South Africa is probably going to miss them more than we think when we move. And I'm saying when we move because I think that move is imminent. So anyway, the Crusaders have won fourth in a row. Some people will say this is not a real win, but they proved that they're better than probably the best teams in club rugby or union rugby in the world at the moment. 10 titles in 24 attempts. And to put that into perspective, I think the two best teams are the Bulls and the Blues, are only both on 3 wins ever. In the Northern Hemisphere, Leicester Tigers have won 10 times, but in 32 tournaments in the Premiership, and they haven't won since the 2012-2013 season. Saracens have won 4 out of 5 times. I think they've won 5 overall, but now they're getting relegated because of salary cap issues. Pro 14, which is probably where South African teams or the 4 premier franchises of South Africa is going to move to. They've had 6 different winners in the last 10 seasons. And in France, the top 14 had different winners at a different winner in all the 6 seasons that they've played. So the only dynasty, and Woude, you say this over and over again, the only dynasty that's ever really been in club rugby, the Crusaders. So all over the world.
I think you've said it, Woude. It's I just want to underline this, double underline what Woude said, is they're the best rugby team in the world. By the way, I'm not better than the All Blacks. I would rather play for the Crusaders if I was like anything like a good enough sportsman to pick my sport. I would play rugby for the Crusaders. That's like top 2, top 3 for me.
What are the other teams? Man United?
No, certainly not. No, shouldn't compare those. No, I think the New England Patriots. No, geez, that was blasphemy. Geez, kiss your mother with that mouth, Woude. Jeepers.
You just seem to have a very love-hate relationship with Man United. You keep talking about them. I think you're obsessed with them. The way I'm obsessed with the Chiefs, I think that's the way you're obsessed with Man United.
Okay, like a self-loathing thing. That could be what's happening, is I need to suffer because maybe my life's so good. I need an element of suffering. Fair enough. Yeah. Yes. Hey, I think you made great points about the Crusaders. I don't think I can add to what you've said.
Yeah, and I think this is the reason, 1, because I didn't watch the Australian games, and 2, I thought the New Zealand games are so good. I didn't pick any Australian games for my New Zealand for my team of the week. So we can have a look at that. You can tell me if you agree or disagree with me. So starting with the props, I went with Johnston from the Highlanders. I think he held the scrum, obviously, against this Crusaders scrum. I thought he did really great with that. And he made most tackles of any prop of the week. I think he made 8. Hello, Torah, again for the Crusaders. He's just so solid on that other side. And I think him and Joe Moody just had a brilliant game up front. My hooker, you can't go for anyone else but Cody Taylor. Well, you actually can. You could go for Dane Coles. Thought he did really well. He played a great game. But Cody Taylor, maybe it's because he lifted the cup that I prefer him over this week. He had also big runs. I think he had 68 run meters, 10 tackles. He's just getting better every week. So most probably the starter again for the All Blacks. He's done really, really great. Perry Parkinson for the Highlanders. He is just such a difficult guy to bring down, and I think he proved it again this weekend. He really did great for the Highlanders and against the Crusaders. He's just also got this like subtle side to his game that I don't think we always see. And yeah, I quite like him. On the other side, I picked Scott Scrafton from the Hurricanes. Just hard grafting from him, nothing too spectacular. He didn't miss any of his tackles. He's won a lot of his lineouts. I think it's just a nice hard grafting game from Scrafton. Loose forwards, I actually realized now that I picked 3 Highlanders for my team. That's quite interesting. But obviously, Shannon Frizzell, probably the best number 6 in New Zealand at the moment. And I think we might as well, in my opinion, give him the number 6 jersey for the All Blacks. He just proved again, he's brilliant. Whether it's with the ball, without the ball, you can just kind of guarantee that he's going to be there and he knows where he needs to be. He's a strong runner. He's got great tackles, very dominant. And with ball in hand, he just makes so many meters. So for me, he's probably the best number 6 in New Zealand, like I said. Dylan Hunt from the Highlanders. Again, he's just so prominent in this game. Yeah, I think he was just really good. And then Makele too. I think the Highlanders kind of dominated, and especially the fact that they led for 60 minutes of the game. And we know how good the Crusaders top 5 is, and their back row, their loose forwards. So I thought the Highlanders back row did really, really well. You could probably argue to put Duplessis Karifi in there from the Hurricanes. I thought he also had a really good game. Tom Christie from the Crusaders also had a very good defensive game. But I thought these 3 did really well. So those are my forwards. And Woude, did you disagree or agree with me on them? Who would you rather put in there?
I've got a problem with Shannon Frizzell. I was arguing with an All Black legend this weekend for about 2 hours about him, because he absolutely loves Shannon Frizzell, and he is a Hurricanes legend. This guy I was talking to, and he loves Frizzell, and I've been out on Frizzell for a number of reasons. So I've never really loved him, but other than that, I think that's it's interesting that you didn't pick any Crusaders.
No,
but okay, that is what it is. But the one I take out, I'm not big on Shannon Frizzell. But
oh my gosh, that's an interesting. Like I said, I think he's going to be the All Blacks number 6. So yeah,
we'll see. I think it'll depend. It's an interesting one. That's a very interesting shout that you're calling, because once again, it showed the best individuals don't necessarily win the game, and I think this is where the All Blacks are better than anybody else. Shannon Frizzell might be the best explosive individual, but does he do what the whole engine needs to run? You know how the All Blacks are. Anyway, it got quite heated between me and this former coach we had, and he's massive, one of the biggest names New Zealand rugby's ever had, and he's on your side, Woude. So hey, and it's you and him playing. Maybe I'm on the wrong side of things.
Okay, we go to the backs. I picked TJ Perenara as my scrum half. I think he just showed his experience. I thought his leadership was great. And he had that great flat pass to Marga Jensen to score that try. So I thought he was really, really good. Yeah, he's the scrum half for me. Quality. Yeah, fly half, you can't go with anyone else but Richie Mo'unga. I did think Josh Ioane actually did quite well in the Highlander side. I don't think Mo'unga completely showed him up. Obviously, you can't kind of just compare someone with Mo'unga at the moment. But I thought Josh did really well. But Mo'unga, his decision-making on the field, and I don't really feel like I need to go into this anymore. We keep saying it week after week. His decision-making, the way that he changes his style of play. He goes either kicking or passing, or what I find very interesting about him and what I picked up on Saturday is he quite often plays out of the 13 position, which is outside center. So for those of you who don't necessarily watch rugby or just started watching rugby, so your fly half is normally kind of distributor in the back line, and Wulelo, you can correct me if I'm explaining it differently, but he's kind of the first receiver. So when there's a breakdown or a scrum or anything, the scrum half normally passes the ball to him and he distributes it either via kicking or passing the ball into the back line and distributing it down back line. What was interesting, what I picked up, is he actually almost moved to completely out to the 13. So Jack Goodhue kind of took the ball up as first receiver with a pod of forwards, and they kind of conned the opposition, and then Mo'unga got the ball on the outside center position and then distributed from there. So that was quite an interesting thing, and I think that again just shows how revolutionary, the word I used before, the Crusaders are for using their fly half in that complete kind of like outside lane. What do you call it?
Channel. Yeah,
channel. That's the word I'm looking for.
You're from George. You're from George. from George. English isn't your first language.
Well, you're joking, but I started dreaming in English when I was working in Durban, and they do say if you start dreaming in another language, you're completely bilingual. So I found that quite interesting. But maybe I just spoke too much Afrikaans this weekend in that outside channel. So I thought that was quite interesting what the Crusaders were doing with Mwanga. And for me, he's definitely the starting number 10 and has to be the starting number 10 for the All Blacks. Moving to my centers, the midfield, I went with Jack Goodhue. Jack, he's solid enough. I think he's just such a crucial part. And like I said now, such a crucial part of the Crusaders team and how they're using him to draw in defense and open up those outside channels. And he does it really well. And he pulls in a lot of defenders when he does carry the ball. He made an error here or there. It wasn't a flawless outing for him on the night, but I thought he did a pretty good job. And then
Woude, I think just before you move on, I think that's the biggest reason. And I know your guy, Woude, has been trumpeting another guy who, so now I've been having a big problem with the person I was chatting to, because he's a Hurricanes legend and he says Lau Mape till the death. And I say exactly what you were saying. If you do go and watch the Crusaders game, what Jack Goodhue gives you is that ability to attack both sides of the ruck, because he's a natural. It's like having Aaron Major again. He's a natural distributor, almost another number 10, which is where Laumape doesn't have that. And that's why I kind of always argue with Woude, and she loves that explosive, and Laumape is just dynamite. I'm not going to deny that. But Goodhue then gives you exactly what you saw this weekend, Woude, is the Crusaders can kill you both ways. So if you catch Mwanga up in the ruck, no problem. We got Goodhue first receiver. He'll dictate. Goodhue, obviously, brilliant at taking the ball up as well. No worries. We got the world's best at 10. So I think Laumape might need to watch exactly what the Crusaders have been doing. I am in love. I think the 12-13 combo is set for the All Blacks, but a conversation for another time. I absolutely love Goodhue.
Yeah, I know you do. But again, we have been saying this, the Crusaders do play a very different way to what the All Blacks are playing. It would depend, would Jack Goodhue kind of fit in with what Ian Foster would want them to do? Or is this just kind of a different way that the Crusaders have been playing? So, I mean, Jack Goodhue is the starting All Black, so we can't argue with that. And he has proved himself over and over. It is just interesting that there are a lot of youngsters. And I do think he needs to up his game to keep that jersey, because Laumape is definitely stepping up. He's definitely working on his defense. He's great with ball in hand. So I just think Goodhue would need to work a little bit harder, because it's not set in stone that 12 jersey is going to belong to him. So he just needs to watch his back. Then I just think Umaga Jensen, how good has he been the last few weeks for the Hurricanes? He's been playing such nice, beautiful rugby. I think he scored 2 tries. He had an assist with a try. I think.
I don't know. He's brilliant, though.
He's just so great at breaking the line. Yeah. He's just absolutely brilliant. And even you would have kind of expected with Laumape being injured and out, I think he actually even stepped up more when Laumape wasn't there. So he's just really impressed me. And it would be interesting to see if he's going to get an All Blacks call-up, or if they're going to stick with Rico in that 13 jersey, because he's not a bad option to have, I think. And then my outside backs, I definitely don't think he's a bad option.
Awesome player. No, with ball in hand. I mean, I have my criticism of Umaga Jensen, but he's so young. And my God, deadly with ball in hand. Like his uncle.
Yeah. And then my outside backs, George Bridge, obviously scored those 2 very quick tries with beautiful assists from Will Jordan.
The best.
George,
the best, Woude. The best. George Bridge, the best.
I just think he never really has a bad game. And you could kind of say that he kind of quietly goes about his thing and he does what he needs to do. But then he's just got these moments of absolute brilliance. It would be interesting for me. I really like him and I think he's really solid. And I just don't know if he is consistent enough and if he only has moments of brilliance to play for the All Blacks. No, meaning consistent throughout an entire match, or if he brings out these moments and working with the rest of the Crusaders players, if that really impacts his game. I think he's good. It would be interesting. I also really like Caleb Clark. So he's also a great option for me to have, and he's a big guy and he can really run. So All Blacks don't have a problem picking their back three or their outside backs at all. They've got so many options there.
George Bridge is like dating a supermodel who's also a nice person. It's like he does everything you need. He does everything you need, and he's got the finishing touch. Like, put him in space. It's the best. Folks, what do you think at home? We'll put a poll. Put a poll.
Yeah,
so Caleb Clark for you. George Bridge, the best in the world.
I didn't say Caleb Clark over him. I would just like to see what Caleb Clark would be able to do, stepping it up to Pet's level, because he is, I think, really good. He makes a lot of tackles. He's good with ball in hand. He can really run. He's big. He's everything. He's really a lot what you want from an outside back, especially you wanting a big guy to play on your wing. So it's interesting.
100 kg, George Bridge is 100 kgs. Don't let that wiriness fool you. George Bridge, like I told you, like dating a supermodel. Who's a nice person.
Anyway, he is quite cute though, so I'll just put that in there. Sean Wanui from the Chiefs. I had to pick a Chiefs player. It was their last game. They're not going to get a chance to make it into the team of the week again. And I think he's probably the standout player for the Chiefs side. If it wasn't for him, if it wasn't for him and for Lachlan Boscher, probably wouldn't be a Chiefs side. So Sean Wanui, you're great. Well done for keeping the Chiefs' low hopes a little bit alive. And then I went with Jordie Barrett as my other outside back. You could probably have put Will Jordan in there, but I think Jordie Barrett, I think a lot of people would be angry if you didn't put Jordie Barrett in there. So yeah, I think that's my team.
He's the All Black fly half. Let's get over. I mean, fullback. Like, let's
get
over it now. Burden Barrett, fullback. Burden Barrett's on the bench. Jordie Barrett is the All Black fullback. Like, it's done now. I don't want to hear anything. Listen, who do we have on as a guest? Was it Schalk Brits, World Cup winner? No big deal. Had him on our show. Schalk Brits said there's a difference between Test rugby and Super rugby. Will Jordan, McKenzie, Barrett, this nonsense. This flashy nonsense you can do here, no problem.
Look,
come up against England, then what?
Yeah, I know you need Jordie Barrett. He's got those big kicks. He's solid under the high ball. He can make his penalties. He makes those big conversions. So you can't leave him out of your All Black side anymore. Let's be honest, Richie Mo'unga's kicking has not been great. He will definitely need to work on that. But if you've got Jordie Barrett there, then maybe you don't necessarily need Mo'unga to be better at his kicking. I just find it interesting that he doesn't get a lot of criticism for his kicking. Maybe it's because he's so good with everything else that he's doing. This was Beauden Barrett. We would have given him a lot of flack for missing the kick that Mo'unga missed. I don't even think Mo'unga's kicking percentage is 70%. I think it's not great. So,
well, I want to stop you there. Let's not compare the players, because Mo'unga is twice the player that Barrett is.
No, I'm talking kicking. No, I'm talking kicking percentage, and I'm saying that we're not giving him as much flack as we do Beauden Barrett for missing those kicks. So it needs to be mentioned.
They win. No, the Crusaders. No, I'll tell you the big difference, Bodie.
They missed that crucial kick right at the end when they lost against the Hurricanes.
I mean, listen, once in a while. Let me tell you what happens when Beauden Barrett misses kicks all the time. You go and draw a series you should have smashed the Lions in. Do you know what happens when you miss kicks? You lose to England. That's what happens, Beauden. Just saying.
Richie Mo'unga was also playing when they played against England. So
three titles in a row. Richie Mo'unga. That's what he's going to tell you.
Yeah, but that's Crusaders. We're talking All Blacks here.
No, Beauden Barrett was the starting fly half in that match. Mo'unga came off the bench.
When? Against England in the World Cup?
Yeah.
No, Beauden Barrett started at 15.
I stand to be corrected. And who was the kicker?
Mo'unga was
I'm pretty sure it was Barrett. Oh, was he? Okay. All right, well.
Yeah.
Terrible. We'll check it.
So we'll check that, but his kick percentage hasn't been absolutely amazing either.
No,
but I think the rest of his game, so that's one thing he can work on. But when you have Jordie Barrett on the pitch, you won't necessarily need to worry about those kicks that Mo'unga will be missing.
Yeah, and like you're saying, I think you raised a great point, Vody, is as though you have enough of a headache with the All Blacks being able to score every type of try. Now you can't give penalties away. And this was, by the way, the Springboks must give themselves credit. It's always been our threat, right? is we went straight from like Francois Steyn to Pollard is anything from 58 meters inwards, right? With Francois Steyn, it was ridiculous because it was like 62, 63 out. And he has kicked a 65-meter with the Sharks, by the way, for those who remember that one, on the sideline on his own 10-meter, which is in rain. But we've gone from Francois Steyn to Andre Pollard because Pollard's got a bomb as well. Now the All Blacks have Barrett who can kick it from 55. It's a nightmare. Can't give penalties away anyway. Oh, my goodness.
No, you can't. No, you can't. So I think what was also interesting is how they scored. And I actually read this article and I find it so stupid. So people have been saying, yes, South Africa hasn't been able to play rugby yet, but the South has not forgotten about them and how they've adjusted to play more like the Springboks because they're now scoring tries off rolling mauls. I'm like, come on. Don't say it's because of the Springboks that the Crusaders are now, or the New Zealand teams are now scoring tries off rolling mauls. Nonsense. Like, stop trying to compare them to that team. That's the only thing we could do. The Crusaders have literally, or the New Zealand teams in general, actually, have literally gone like, okay, we need to work on this part of our game. And probably we've got our back line. We know they're electric. We know what they can do. Now let's start working in the front and seeing how we can score off set pieces. And now, like you've said before, it's literally they can score, they can score any type of try you want them to score. They can distribute the ball around the back line. They can get past the rush defense, which I also think they've figured out how to get past the rush defense, work around it. They can have Mohanga's brilliant kicking, putting them into great tactical positions to do that. And they can score if they set pieces. We're in trouble. We are in big, big, big trouble if we think we can take them on up front now.
Love to know what people at home think. Can Rassie neutralize the threat? Because it's real. Wow, these guys are. It's been incredible to watch. So, wow, end of the season really because the competition's over. But there's one more week, huh?
There's one more week. So we've got the Blues. Yeah, we've got the Blues and Crusaders at Eden Park, and then we've got the Hurricanes and Highlanders. I'm not sure if which team's playing at home, but I think it will also be two really good games. Like I said, the Hurricanes would need to win that one, and they would hope that Crusaders will beat. I don't think Razor did say he's not doing his breakdancing yet until they finish next weekend. So we'll have to wait another week to see Scott's breakdancing moves.
Oh, man, that's awesome. That is the skip pass for this week. Woude, good stuff. That is good stuff from Woude there. So, is there a little bit more, Woude? What you got for us?
I felt bad for not picking any of the Australian guys in my team. So I kind of gave a special mention to some of them who might have made it into the team if I didn't just watch the highlights. So, or a prop, I thought he was quite good, keeping that scrum alive from the Rebels against the Brumbies. Obviously, we know the Brumbies scrum was a bit more, it's stronger than the other teams in Australian rugby. Jack Dempsey as a loose forward from the Waratahs. I think he's also just impressing more and more every weekend. Matt Phillip as a lock. I think he's a bit upset with himself for giving away some points, but yeah, he's been okay. And then Naisarani for Rebels, also loose forward, actually number 8. He played some really, really good rugby this weekend, if you can call Australian rugby good rugby. Gordon, the scrum half, scored 3 tries, so he got a hat-trick on the Waratahs, but we have to say that the Reds' defense was actually atrocious. So I think a hat-trick score against them is not great. And then Matt Tamua, he normally plays 10 for the Rebels, but he played 12 this weekend. And I actually think that 12 is suiting him much better than 10. So I definitely think that the Australian coaches will look at moving him to 12. And then O'Connor probably a 10. But we'll have to see that one. So if I had to put someone in my team and leave out some of the incredible New Zealand teams, I would probably have put some of these Oaks in, but you can't. I couldn't. I could lie to you and say that I watched the games, but I didn't.
James O'Connor, he's a problem. A friend of mine got into like a full-on like 20-man brawl with him in Perth, Australia. Quite a story. He sent me some of the videos from that night. He's not a guy I want to, especially if they want to change the culture. You got to get rid of him and Beale and start again. But probably not because they don't have the talent. He is one of the best rugby players in the world.
Yeah, it's just his attitude is just such a problem. Like Noel Olizio has been coming through in the number 10 jersey, so it will be interesting to see if they can really develop him and manage him into a good player. Then I guess they would probably rather go for him just attitude-wise and for team spirit-wise, if you want to call it that. But I just, the the Australian teams are just in so much trouble.
No good.
No
good.
So
no good.
Sorry for any Australian
listeners.
Yeah, James O'Connor's your hope. Sorry for any Australian listeners if we might have them, but I could not get myself to pick any of them in my team of the week this weekend.
There you have it. Hey? So no, wow, yeah. They are, okay, it's painful watching. It's not Formula One or watching, any motorsport, but it's Australian rugby is painful watching. I'm with Woude there.
Watch Formula One and Australian rugby right now.
That's all a snooze fest. Just get me on the couch with snacks and I'm done. But yeah, that's it. That is the skip pass for today. Woude, great stuff. Woude will be back in a bit, folks. We will be taking a little bit of Q&A, questions and answers. That is coming up after this. Okay, dokie. Let's get straight into it. Let's get into the Q&A. The voice of God, David, our producer and show extraordinaire man, human. He's the guy who does everything that makes the show work. David, what question do you have for me first? Senzo Sitebe says, Dan de Prier looks like he's holding back. I need to see more. It's an interesting one. I have my thoughts on Dan du Preez. I'll give my thoughts on Dan, and then I will hand over to Woude. He is your quintessential South African forward. I think he's what Peter Steph Tutoya has become, but he never became it in a Bok jersey. And it's wild to me because he's the most gifted number 8 I think we've ever had naturally. But it just never happened for him. He was in a poor team. And he really, you know what I think the obsession is when you see somebody that big, you immediately want to turn them into a Woude Muller. But he's probably more of a Kieran Reid. He wants to play rugby. He can do the nasty stuff, no problem. Born on meters cheap. I mean, we're talking 112, 13 kgs and hard as nails. I mean, the Prier tree, you know what it is. But he took all his sons overseas, kind of glad because we had to lose Dan, who's the best of them, by the way. The others are, his twin brother is also a tank. And then his brother at fly half, mediocrity personified. So for me, Dan du Preez, if he comes back, I'd love him back. I think he's a useful loose forward, and I believe he could be another number 7 rather than 8 because he is insane. Woude, your thoughts on Dan du Preez?
Yeah, I think I can pretty much agree with you on that one. We did talk about it last week. His stats in the Northern Hemisphere playing for Sales Sharks has been actually quite incredible. I just not sure, did he play a bit more lock than he did loose forward in the Northern Hemisphere? Because I had this argument with someone, and as far as I know, he's been playing loose forward in 8 mostly. I like a dynamic 8. I like an 8 that can move, that can run with ball in hand, that can make his tackles as big guys. So I wouldn't mind seeing what he can do as an 8. I think moving to the Northern Hemisphere for him has actually been pretty good. It's just getting an opportunity to play a different kind of rugby that we probably would have made him play in South Africa. Will he be the first choice for the Springboks? Like I said, probably not, because we would want to give it to Jean Augustus, who's that big guy. For me, that's not it. But Mbolelo, he's not going to play 7 over Peter Steph du Toit in South Africa, and we know that. So if he wants to play, he will need to play 8, and he will need to get better at that position and work on that. Yeah. Great
to have that sort of talent as a fourth or fifth option.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. David, what is next? And Dollars on my jaws. He says, Dwayne is my pick as well. Pierce Spies is my personal favorite 8 Springbok of all time, though. So that, for a bit of context, was when Woude had picked her best number 8 to ever play in a Bok jersey in a World Cup winning team. So Woude Ndogozo seems to agree with you. He picks Dwayne of all the 3 that have won, whether it be 95 with Andrews, Donnie Rosso, of course, 07, and then Dwayne Vermeulen last year in Japan.
Yeah, I mean, Dwayne has been the only real 8. We know that both Andrews and Rousseau were locks that moved to 8 in the World Cup. So you can't really judge them on what they did. They did what they needed to do. So Dwayne, obviously, definitely the best, and he won his man of the match in the final. Pierce Spies, I think, has been a lot of people's favorite player. I think people really liked him. He was obviously big, he was strong, he was fast, he could move. He's basically what I want from an 8. I just don't think he really lived up to it, ever, to those expectations.
Yeah.
He was
never the same.
He was never.
After the whatever happened, I'm not going to cast any aspersions. He had a heart condition and he couldn't go to the World Cup. He was never the same because he turned into Bob Skinstad, standing next to Rux and Gary Teichmann.
But you know what? This is what I don't like about South African rugby, and so many of our players had to change the way that they play to pull a Bok jersey over their head. We can think of Percy Montgomery. He had to change the way that he played to fit into the style of rugby. He would never have played for the Springboks if he was still playing with that flair that he used to play with. He became quite a boring, conservative player, but he realized that's what he needs to do if he wants to play for the Springboks. Damien Delenda, similar. Damien was, if you think about Damien, 6-7 years ago, he was really such a good, interesting player to watch. And he had to change the whole way that he played to fit in. Willie Leroux. Willie was actually quite good when he played for the Chiefs, and we just started playing for the Springboks. But then what happened? We kind of we pick these players for the way that they are playing in Super Rugby and in Currie Cup. And then the moment that we put them in a Springbok jersey, we're like, now you have to play a different kind of rugby. So what's the point of picking those players for their talent if you just want them to change and play the way that you want them to play? I think Faf de Klerk is probably one of the better options if you want to say that he was picked for what Rassie wanted him to do, box kick and be an idiot on the field. And that's exactly what he is. So he didn't necessarily need to change what he did. But so many of our other players have had to change the way that they play to be able to wear the Springbok jersey. And it's really sad that I think we're doing that to our players. And that's why we lose so many players who move overseas. And who is our loose forward or the best 8? Small guy. 100%. Was a brilliant player, but he would never fit into a Springbok jersey. Francholo never really fit the mold of what we wanted from him, but they were so we tried to change them to play a different way, and I hope that's not what we're going to do with the 8 when Dwayne retires next year.
Be tough once again. What do people think? I'd love to know, but that's Woude's thoughts. We change our players too much to fit the Bok way. Let them express themselves. Fair enough. That's fair thought there. And something I thought today, definitely the comment of the week. Jesse Randlehoff, brilliant comment here. Something which really got me going and riled up as I read it is he says the Invincibles, Man United's treble team, and City's Centurions is my top 3 teams before the Chelsea 04 05 team. Now, that's a very interesting one there, Jesse, that you've gone with. Remember the Invincibles? Of course. Okay, fine. I'm happy to take it. But that was one title in a row. It was just one title. The United Treble team, of course, they're special because they went on to win literally 3 titles in a row. But I guess we're talking about one season. So what you have to take into account, by the way, is Chelsea's 04-05 team, and whether you consider this or not, conceded 15 goals in the whole season. Not in half a season, not in 15 goals in the whole season. So you're talking about the greatest defense of all time as well under Mourinho. So for me, I've always said, now it's clear to me. It's the Centurions, right? And I think Mourinho's team beats anyone, but maybe that's the Chelsea bias. If you're going to put a gun to my head, though, I go City Centurions, Chelsea's dynastic Mourinho team second, and then I think, of course, Fergie's. In fact, you could have either of Fergie's teams, but you're talking about Beckham and the boys on that famous night in Munchen. So I would do it 1, 2, 3 Chelsea sandwich between that. But my goodness, great comments though. Love to know what people think, because I think that is some talking points if you are a Premier League football fan. Jesse Randolph, comment of the week. David, what do you have next? So a while ago, to give this, I think this question needs some context as well. A while ago, we spoke about the nature of adding entertainment. It was Morgan. We had Morgan Newman on, was it Friday or Thursday? Whenever we had Morgan, which was awesome. He was talking about how rugby's business model needs to evolve, and the product needs to be. It's not enough to have just people on the field playing sports. It needs to be an event. It needs to be a family event. Engage the kids. Engage the husband or the wife who doesn't watch rugby. Dave, why don't you give me that question again from, I believe it's Senzo Sitebe. He says, go watch the Super Bowl and you will see what the rest of the world should be doing as entertainment. People that don't care for football watch the Super Bowl. And I think that's a magnificent point from Senzo, is that it's an event. So if you've got rugby, if you're in, I don't know, in Pretoria, the Bulls are in the Currie Cup final. Like, I don't know, who's big? Steve Hofmeyer, have him perform at halftime, right? Make it an event so the family comes out. Husband, wife doesn't watch rugby. Whichever partner doesn't watch rugby, he'll get the music, right? Whatever it may be. And let's do something South African. We don't necessarily need to have the dancing girls, because that's a very American thing. We're quite a conservative society. Maybe we need our own thing. But get that going as a sideshow. Morgan had a great idea. Double headers. I thought that was a brilliant idea. Maybe we have the big school games, right, as the curtain raisers at the ground. I mean, let's be fair here. Listen, people. Paul Gim and, the boys in Stellenbosch, they're Paul Roos, they have 10,000 people. I can tell you in a derby, I was fortunate to play in twice. We had 10,000 people watching us play. So, this is real. The Super Bowl is real. It's a show. And we must switch our minds as South Africans. I couldn't agree more with Senzo. I'd love to know what you think, Woude. But take it from its sport, take it to its entertainment product. So, Woude, I don't know. Woude, rugby's been in your heart for a long time. So maybe you fall on the side. Should rugby stay the same? Do we need to evolve?
No, rugby has become so boring. Even watching South African teams play each other. Remember back about 15 years ago, we had those massive Currie Cup games between Western Province and the Blue Bulls, where it was literally sold out. You had a braai before the time at Newlands on the field. All the kids would go. There was interaction between the kids and between the players. And it was just, and even on TV, you would want to watch. You would organize a braai at your house to be able to watch with your mates, or you would go to a pub and everyone would be there. And it was just such a vibe. It's just lost that completely. Now, these days, you kind of forget that there's rugby on, and you happen to walk past the TV when something is on, or scrolling through the channels to be like, oh, there's a game on. Now that we've seen such quality games in New Zealand, I mean, the game for next weekend, the Blues Crusaders game, sold out. So it's such an incredible thing to have this, and it just shows you when there's quality rugby on and there's quality teams playing each other, they have the entertainment, they have the media involved, because they building up these players and they're building up the excitement for the games. What an important thing that is. So I definitely agree. The whole product that rugby is giving us needs to change. It's too much rugby, too much not good rugby.
Yeah, it's a dilute. But I think, hey, you hit on a great point that I don't think we've touched on before, is the media's role in it. Is the media needs to wake up as well. Is, if you look at the NFL, they turned it into a fiasco. And you look at the Premier League, what does Sky Sports do? Is they sell narratives. They sell us the story of Man United versus Liverpool. And, you remember the days when, I don't think I've heard in South Africa the North versus South battle. I haven't really read an article. I mean, fair enough. I am not reading any of the South African major publications because I honestly believe people that work there can't spell. I think it's done by bots now. It is disgusting what journalism has turned into in this country. But I haven't heard the term. Remember when we used to it was a thing. It was like North versus South. Bulls, Lions versus Border were good back then. Province was Province. So when Province would come up here, and I was, of course, in Durban in high school. I remember when the Lions were coming down or the Bulls were coming down, and we had tickets and we'd go watch. It's like North versus South, and it was big even in boarding school. Guys would be at it. Like it was epic. The media, I think you've raised a great point there, Woude, is the media must play their roles by creating the narratives around the product as well.
Yeah. And like we're doing, and we're comparing players before the time. So I've done it a few times in a build up to a game or a preview or whatever. Compare those players to each other. Let us know what we're expecting when these players come up against each other. Tell us that Mbuzo has been with the Western Province and he's now moved there, and this is who's taking his spot, and this is what we're going at. Have that. It makes it more exciting. And don't always just focus on the Springbok players in your team. We have got so many youngsters that are coming through, and people go and watch them also. We have Apelele Fassi, I think, is a great example of that. How great he has been and coming through. And now all of a sudden you're like, oh, I want to see him play. Even though he's only played one season of Super Rugby. But people now, so build them up, build up the youngsters. So that when the Springboks do leave to go play overseas, that's not going to impact the game at all, because there's so much talent in South Africa anyway. And that's just in South Africa. I'm not even talking about the rest of the world. So it can definitely, from an entertainment point of view, we can do so much better. But it's just these old people sitting at the top at World Rugby who doesn't see how much they can change us. And that's what Augustine Peugeot, just to finish off with this, he has had such great ideas because he's also still a younger guy and he's involved in the technology side of things, because I think he's got a company technology based. Even having kids play, like your FIFA, whatever games, have that in rugby. Let the kids start playing and get to know the players in the teams. So he has had such great ideas, but unfortunately, what we have at the top, I don't know. Let me not get onto that right now.
Let me save you the trouble, Woude. It's the second day of the Women's Day Test match. It's gone over into the Monday, so you shouldn't be getting all hot under the collar there.
Yeah.
Well said. All right. Well, that's some great points. Dave, what you got for us? The rig says, how many energy drinks and narcotics did you need to stay awake for the golf? That's good, the rig. Hey, love watching, especially the big stuff, or any tournaments where there's 4 or 5 like world talents. And it doesn't happen enough in golf because there are like 450,000 golf tournaments on per season. But when it's the big stuff, when it's 5 or 6 of them at it, I don't miss majors. I don't care who's playing. Listen, put Tiger in. I'll watch Tiger play tiddlywinks. But majors, I watch all the time. So the rig, I do not do narcotics. Prime Beef has asked a great question. What about Aaron Smith at 9 for the team of the week?
I could agree with you on Aaron Smith. I think TJ Perenara probably just tipped him this week, but he did bring a lot of energy and great passing to that game. So if you had to pick him for your team of the week, I probably wouldn't disagree with you. I just felt that his decision-making wasn't on point. in this weekend's games, and I thought he made a few mistakes in this weekend that he didn't make weekends before. So, and it was a bit uncharacteristic for him to really make those mistakes. So that's the reason why I didn't pick him. But if you did pick him, I wouldn't argue with you about that. But that was my reason for not picking him.
There we go.
Yeah.
The rig. You've heard it. The rig. Mbulelo, can we see you grow a big beard? Oh no, I've got like the baby face guy problem. This is as good as it gets. This is me being as grizzly as possible. So I could actually be a man baby. That's probably what's going on. So this is the limit. I'm afraid I'm the least manly man alive. J-E-S-U-S. Wow. Incredible. Is that J Swiss? I don't know what's going on there. It says, Woude, tell us a bit about women's rugby, seeing as it's Women's Day.
So I know it sounds terrible, but I personally don't necessarily enjoy watching women's rugby. And maybe it sounds bad, but again, I like watching quality rugby specifically. And I'm not saying that women are not good at other things. I just think that for me, I haven't really caught on to the idea of that. One, maybe because we don't get the proper talent playing, we don't see enough of it, we don't have the media involved in it, and we don't have the TV rights involved in it. So the product and the money involved in women's rugby is not necessarily getting the attention that it needs to. The Sevens, I must say, that was in Cape Town last year, it was actually nice to have the women involved in the whole tournament because the women and men played together, because you ended up seeing a little bit more of that. And I thought that was a little bit better, especially the New Zealand teams. I mean, those girls are strong and big, and I would not want to mess with any of them. I did hear, though, that there are quite a lot of politics and issues involved in the women's rugby. I mean, from a fighting point of view, from all. And one of the coaches actually said to me that his biggest issue is because a lot of the girls might date each other in the teams, and then they would break up, and then the one would get a new girlfriend, and it would cause a lot of issues in the teams. So we were talking about this before. We were saying that what happens off the field, how much it impacts the players on the field and the play on the field, and how your attitude affects the team. So that apparently is one of the biggest issues that they've said that they struggle with in the women's rugby. But
that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
That is going to be a problem. Like, there's that son of a biscuit who is now dating so-and-so, and I saw them at the restaurant this morning, and we broke up like 3 weeks ago, and they're already making out with somebody else. Oh, my goodness. Wow. Yeah. Hey, that's a whole new dimension.
Yeah. And look, I didn't even think about it before until I spoke to this coach, and I asked them, what is the biggest issue that you have, or what are the biggest issues that you have from, because I mean, it's a different dynamic having to work with women in that setup. And that's one of the things that he did say to me. It's causing a lot of different issues.
Well, it would be interesting because it's not controversial. I know if you work at any of the real big banks, and I know I have a few friends that work as investment bankers around the world, is one of the rules in your contract, in your work contract, you may not date somebody who works at the office. So like that, okay, I mean, I don't understand. Obviously, sport is a whole different animal, and I don't know the coach or what sports policies are. But it would be interesting to see, maybe when you speak to them next, speak to them about why don't they just do it like a KPMG, Investec, you know, Berkshire Hathaway. I know people who work at Berkshire Hathaway, and they are real strict. They are real strict there. And I do know a lady who actually got fired. So they don't muck about it. She got fired. A very, very close friend of mine who got fired for even being seen it was actually at a staff party. They were making out with somebody at work, and she got fired. So it wasn't even a dating thing. So maybe they should try that.
Maybe they should. Maybe they didn't think that this was going to be such a big issue before, and they realize now coming through. So maybe in the next few seasons that we see coming up, that's might change. I do think that women's rugby qualifying for the 2021 I think they've got qualifying coming up. Now, at the end of the year, I think October, November, there will be some qualifying matches played for the women for the World Cup. So we will see a little bit more. I think is it the Rugby World Cup in 2021 qualification process? I think they will be playing now.
I'd have to check up on that. But
yeah, so I think that's coming up. And then obviously the teams from there, I think they will play then with Scotland, Ireland. I think Spain is hosting, and then they will play with Ireland, Italy, and Scotland. I think this whole thing, end of October, November, and then I think more games in December. So there's definitely stuff happening. And we know we had Paul Delport on the other day from the women's sevens, Springbok sevens point of view, how much he's doing from that point of view. And it's unfortunate that they were supposed to have a qualifying tournament in March this year in South Africa to be able to make it onto the circuit, a permanent team onto the circuit. But unfortunately, that had to be cancelled. So that is now being postponed by another year for the sevens. So there's definitely work happening behind the scenes, and I do think it will get better and better. And I just hope that people would put the time and the money into it so that it can become a better product.
If you're interested in women's rugby, go and check out that episode with Paul Delport. Absolutely brilliant. He's something else. V. Ives says, on the SA Rugby story, we have doping and it's racist as a narrative. Yeah, we do. We do. I mean, that's intrinsically tied into our very recent South African history. I think on the racist part, because it's always been viewed, rugby's always been viewed as a game. It's probably the problem with the racism thing is it's infused with classism, because it's also, and rugby still has this notion, is it's a rich man's game as well. And that's not, by the way, that is not unique to South Africa. So having lived in the United Kingdom and seen how what they call public schools there is, what we would call our St. Stidians and Michael House here, is they call them public schools there, and it's seen as the rich boys game. And rugby's always been a game of the elites, by the way, which is the sort of dichotomy between that and football. So in South Africa, I think it's infused with a lot of things, not just racism, classism, and that divide. And the doping narrative, I think that's worldwide as well. We're starting to see that it's not just South Africa, although stones have been thrown this way. I think we saw the big reveal recently in England that doping's a problem worldwide, by the way. Let's be very clear. So I don't like it when people try and pick on any sport. I'm not just defending rugby and South African rugby, and we're getting better at it. And I'm fortunate to know somebody who's leading the charge on that front at the two leading at VADA and, of course, at the IOC is a very, very good friend of mine. And I know she's doing incredible work from the scientific side it's getting better. We're getting better at it. But the narrative in South Africa, I think we do need to be careful.
Yeah, definitely. I do think also, like you mentioned now, as England rugby and Australia, we spoke about it last week because someone asked me the question, what does Australian rugby need to change? They also have the same thing. It's the people in private schools that end up playing rugby. So if they don't go to the public schools, they're going to lose out on a whole bunch of people that can't play rugby anymore. And it's nothing new here. It's very much your big schools, your Paul Roos, Paul Jim, Affies, Grey kind of college. Those are the people that play rugby. They don't necessarily look at the other schools. And some of the kids who grow up in other schools or play, they need to get scholarships or move to the bigger schools if they do want to play rugby. I think though Rassie has done an incredible job of bringing players together from very different backgrounds. And Schalk Brits also said this on the show when he was on. It didn't matter. So yes, you had the kids from the townships. Yes, you had the people from farms and from the private schools. And he did such a great job to integrate the players. So maybe it's actually not inside the actual setup. It's more the fans and the people watching from the outside that is starting this narrative. So maybe we should actually look at what's happening on the inside and see what the players are doing and how they're treating each other and stop judging from the outside. Yeah.
Hey, maybe. There you have it, V. Ives. What else you got for us there, David? J. Sweet says, who are your favorite ever, who are your guys' favorite ever female athlete? Bodie?
So if I just have to think of the top of my head, I would say someone like Serena Williams, Simone Biles. Obviously, she had at 22, she had 4 world champs. She's a gymnast, by the way. I think she had 4 consecutive victories between 2013 and 15. I think, if I'm not mistaken, she's got 25 Olympic medals. and world championship medals. Serena Williams, obviously also a great sportswoman. I'm not necessarily a fan of her, but you can't take anything away from her talent. She's really good. And then I like swimming, so I like Missy Franklin. I think at 17, she won 4 gold medals in a single Olympics. And for a swimmer, that's pretty great. So just 4 from the top of my head. I can think of more if I have time, but yeah.
No, for me, it's simple. Lindsey Vonn, great ski champion. I've always loved her work ethic off the field or off the ice and the slopes. The greatest. Lindsey Vonn just took it to a completely different level. So for me, if we're saying just female athletes, there's no one even close to her for me. So Lindsey Vonn.
Yeah, see, I just don't watch skiing, so I wouldn't necessarily pick someone like there's between swimming and tennis and the things that I watch. Yeah. So it depends on, I guess, also what sport you're interested in.
True that. And by the way, speaking of that, if we're talking about great sports women, we have and if you watch sport, very, very soon, look out in the next month for the greatest female golfer to ever live, one of the greatest sportsmen to ever live. Had a conversation with her this weekend. We are looking good. A sports human. She was just something. She was the best. Yeah. She changed the game. I cannot wait to have her on, and she is a strong character. Even with our chat, she's no one to be messed with. Look out for that. Greatest. I'm sure people know who that is. The greatest golfer of all time. And yeah, I won't give you any more clues. I'm sure you can work it out. Prime Beef says, can you really pick a single sportsman as the best sportsman in the world? Best in his sport, maybe. Yeah, for me, it's pretty easy. I think there's a transversal in how much better you are than those you compete against, number one. And then now there's a good indicator where if you're great, the money will follow. So it's always a good indicator. Like I always say this to people is every corporate, the capitalist and corporate world is talking to us all the time. Is, hey, you know who the best is? It's who has the most money. Generally, 90% of the time, that's true. Right? You have the most money comes to you, you're generally the best. Now, there's anomalies. There's a 10%. Do they like you? Is it, are you more charming? We now know psychologically is better looking people get paid more. There are those sorts of human biases. But if you've done statistics like me and you failed twice, by the way, idiot over here, but there's people who really do stats. My sister being an actuary by undergrad qualification, they'll tell you, you always have the 10 to 12 median give, which is what you might call spillage for some of you who've worked in bars. You always do the 12 to 10% median give. So that'll always happen. But Tiger Woods is not even close. He's the first billionaire. There's a reason for that. You look at Tiger Woods there's nobody in sport, male, female, in fact, perhaps in entertainment history. You know, golf is such a civilized game. Go and Google Tiger Woods on a golf course on a Sunday. Just go and Google it. I don't need to talk to you. You know, there's sometimes some things you can't explain. He moves people. And when you move the needle, by the way, of viewership by 300%, nobody else does that. I don't care who. Manchester United can't do that as a product that's been built for 80 years. Tiger Woods, it took him 5 years and he did that. So I believe you can, but some people don't. What are your thoughts?
No, I understand where the question comes from, and obviously you can't exactly compare. What is that great comparison? A fish and an elephant. You can't ask a fish to climb a tree, and so that kind of thing. So, but I think if you look at a greater sportsman, you don't necessarily just look what they do on the pitch. Yes, they are the best at what they do, but it's also their work ethic of it. It is the way that they train, the hours that they put in, the kind of person that they are. And also how long they stay at the top of their game. So, you can't ask Roger Federer to jump in a swimming pool and beat Michael Phelps. But if you've seen what Roger Federer has done on the tennis court and the people that he's competed with and competed at that level for such a long time, then you can't say that. So I think if you have to look at the top best 10 sportsmen in the world and women, they probably have very similar characteristics, albeit from different sports. So I think that's probably what you look at when you look at the best in the world from that point of view.
Great question.
Yeah.
David, let's take one more and then we'll get out of here. Jamie Lee says, what about Bruce Jenner for Best female athlete ever. Oh my goodness. I'm not even touching that one. Good question.
Well, I would like to say something on that. So there's a big thing around transgender women playing rugby at the moment. So the World Rugby has done a whole proposal and a whole thing. And if you haven't seen it, go onto Prof. Ross Tucker's Twitter page. Because he was very involved in that and he's done a lot around that. So it was actually quite an interesting argument that a lot of people are having around that. No, scientifically and DNA wise and whatever you want to call it, it actually makes no sense for transgender women to play rugby with women that grew up with female DNA and female everything. Because just you have so much more testosterone and your muscles developed in such a different way for such a long time. So genetically, you are going to be stronger. If you want to look at a social point of view from that, it's very different. But I think from World Rugby point of view, they need to look at these are our facts, these are the genetics, this is what it is. And you can't really argue with that. But there are a lot of arguments happening from the whole transgender community and the unions and things that that support them and that are on their side. So it's actually not such, you would think it's quite a cut and dry argument to have, but it's actually not. And I know that they are having quite a few issues around that point. And this is just specifically in rugby at the moment.
And we will, and by the way, here's another thing, another promise for our listeners. We do have somebody I went to university with is one of the lawyers who is dealing with a few cases at the Court of Arbitration in Switzerland. So we'll try and get him on because it is a saucy matter. I've had some interesting conversations with him about it. So there you have it. All right, Dave, what you got? Let's finish off on this one, and we will let people go and enjoy day 2 of Women's Day. The Rig says, why don't you just pick the Crusaders team each time they play? Definitely the back 3. You don't have to sell me. The Crusaders are, yeah, there we go. I don't actually, I hate to labor a point. So for me, just pick the Crusaders.
No, I mean, you can, but again, we said this before, that the way that the All Blacks play is just very different to the way the Crusaders play. They've just changed and done things so differently. But the back 3 for the Crusaders this weekend, and actually when I picked my team of the week, I actually had the Crusaders back 3 as my team of the week, back 3. George Bridge, Severies, and Will Jordan. I think they were just so good. And for me, when they get the ball, it is so dangerous, and they're so dangerous with ball in hand. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Crusaders had about 650 odd run meters, and between the back 3, I think they probably got half of that. And then you add Mohanga's running meters. I think Mohanga had about 94 run meters. And then also, if you want to add Cody Taylor, 68. So between the back 3, Mohanga and Cody Taylor, they basically got all the Crusaders run meters for them. And I think most of that happened in the last 20 minutes. So territory-wise and possession-wise, it was pretty equal between the two teams. But from run meters, they just upped it completely. And what I did like about them, so Will Jordan obviously had a few chances to score those 2 tries that George Bridge scored. But he just had these brilliant offloads and try assist. But you have to also be in the right position at the right time to be able to get those offloads and passes. So they just work so well together, and they just understand each other so well. And that is why the Crusaders are so dominant. From a team point of view, they understand each other so well. When you get to the New Zealanders or the All Blacks, obviously you have to get to know the player that you're playing with, because they do come from a different club or a different union. So Crusaders very dominant, and that's why, yeah, you could have picked their back 3. If you wanted to.
Certainly could have. But yeah, they are something else. All right. Well, Woude, been good having you. We will see you again on Thursday. James Dalton, I think, returns this week. Is he back this week?
He is on Wednesday, actually, when I pick my number 7 from a World Cup win.
All right, sorry, Wednesday. But you're back on Wednesday and Thursday. James joins us on Thursday.
On Thursday,
so looking forward to that. So you pick your number 7. That is the blindside flank in South African rugby, the open side everywhere else in the world. But for tonight, go and enjoy day 2. Woude, be well. We will see you in 2 days' time. To everybody else, thank you very much. You could have been anywhere tonight. You chose us, Cliff Central, Big Shot Media, and of course myself and Woude Muller. We bid you adieu for tonight.